Hey everybody, what's going on? Dace here, and today we're taking a look at a fascinating controller, the PadBox by Arkodd. I first stumbled upon the PadBox not too long ago and was immediately intrigued. If I'm not on arcade stick for arcade shooters, I typically use dpad on the Switch Pro controller as I find it's comfortable and convenient. The PadBox caught my attention because it provides the opportunity to use dpad while also pulling arcade buttons into the mix, which I think is a really cool combination to see. For those unfamiliar with Arkodd, he's the one behind the hinged box all-button controller and arcade stick variant. At one point he received a request from someone who wanted a D-pad added to the hinged box, so he got to work and before long produced one for the client and one for himself. He used it to play Tekken for a while, but eventually felt he could do an even better job and began designing the PadBox, which required a whole new PCB design and other changes. With a bit of the background story out of the way, let's take a closer look at the PadBox. The PadBox has a 3D printed shell of PLA Plus in this beautiful amethyst purple and measures 24 by 20 by 6 centimeters. It weighs 400 grams and includes a 9-piece set of 24mm Sanwa OBSF buttons, 4 12mm menu buttons, an Omron microswitch D-pad, and a left side trigger which you'll see me swap out for the new and improved PCB and PCB holder. Mine has the 0PI board installed, but with the recent release of the Brook Gen 5X board, every PadBox going forward will include that one. If unfamiliar with the Gen 5X, it opens compatibility for all PS5 games, Xbox Series X, Switch, and PC. If you're on PS4, however, you'll need the Wingman XE2. Let's zero in on some of the things that really shine through and then get into a few areas where I feel improvements or additions could be made. The build quality is top notch. We've got a superb 3D print job that is clean and smooth, the screws go in nicely, everything fits together perfectly, and it has an overall crisp look and feel. We also have an incredibly comfortable and ergonomic design, and I like how the space has been split up. There's approximately 1/4 for the grip, D-pad, and L2 trigger, then 2/4 for the arcade buttons, and a spacious area to rest your right palm, and then the last fourth is nice to have empty for hanging onto the controller. When moving across a room with this, I don't hold the grip, I grab it here on the other side, which feels much more secure. I enjoy the soft purple glow of the indicator light and the cool symbols chosen for the 4 menu buttons. The D-pad has an incredibly satisfying click to it, and the performance has been outstanding. We've got a tidy interior setup, which makes it easy to access things inside the controller. This is always a plus for me since I switch things up where and when I can. I also like that the menu button plunger looks like it sits pretty high, and when you start pressing, you immediately feel this nice resistance. As you get to about halfway down, the resistance increases until you come to a hard stop and are flush with the rim or just a touch below it. They're very satisfying to use. Now let's cover a few areas I feel need some attention. Most of these are very minor and should not deter anyone from considering a PadBox because it is an exceptional controller. Firstly, the edge of the bottom panel feels a little too sharp compared to the rest of the edges on this controller, and I feel even a slight rounding job would make this feel that much more well-rounded, no pun intended. Next, let's discuss the current trigger or shoulder button situation. The footage shows me swapping the old PCB and PCB holder for the new ones, which will be installed in all PadBoxes from now on. While the new switch for the trigger has sharper action or a tighter overall feeling, I think the trigger button setup itself could be improved. It feels a little too loose for my taste. You can hear it rattling around when you're moving the controller, or to a lesser degree when using the trigger, so I would love for this to feel more firm. This may not be the most fair comparison, but if you look at the Switch Pro controller or the Hori SplitPad Pro, there's just enough resistance leading up to the moment the button gives, and you get that very clear and direct input without any looseness or rattling. There's an overall firmness that adds a little bit to the experience each time you press the button, and that's what I feel is missing from the PadBox. Take this lightly though, because this is my first time seeing someone tackle a 3D printed trigger, so I'm just viewing this as still being very early in the experimentation phase, and think it's awesome that he's dipping into trigger territory. Perhaps we'll see 2 or more triggers before long, or maybe even an all triggers controller. This next point isn't a complaint, just an observation, and it is quite likely fully intentional, but the PadBox feels very light and airy. The inside is pretty full of wires, the board, buttons, etc. The interior is incredibly organized, yet there's an emptiness that doesn't feel like it belongs. There's no heft here, and I personally really enjoy being able to feel that sort of weight. So even if we had the option to choose a metal plate for an additional cost, or for there to be some sort of weight distributed throughout the interior, I think that would do a lot to make this feel more wholesome or substantial. But these things are all simply preferences, and nothing discussed here compromises the quality or functionality of the PadBox itself. It is a fantastic controller, and if you're looking to pick one up, you can purchase it from Arkodd's website for 250 Canadian, or the DIY version, which is only 130 Canadian. I think that is a great option for keeping the cost down. To wrap things up, I think the PadBox combines dpad and arcade buttons in a way that gives people an awesome hands-on experience while also leaving tons of room for future experimentation. I'd like to extend a huge thanks to Arkodd for providing me with this PadBox, and to everyone who checked out this review. I trust you enjoyed the video, and we'll see you all next time. Take care.